All right. So today, I want to talk about what player fantasy, character fantasy. Um, so I swear this isn't a call out or anything. So yesterday, towards the end of the day, one of our players, one of the guys, one of the bros, one of the dudes, he's playing WoW as some people do. I don't. And he brought up some like interesting little wrinkle about the rogue in World of Warcraft. Like I don't fully understand exactly what's going on in that game, but they have, to my understanding, and I'm sure he'll comment about it, whether, even if the comment is just like, yep, that's right. To my understanding, the rogue can be built in a few different ways. I vaguely remember there being 3 skill trees for each class. So like generally there's kind of 3 versions of each class, because most of the time in any game with skill trees, you just pick one and go up that tree. Like it's not as customizable as people really think it is. It's just a linear progression that looks more customizable and more freeform, but not the point. So really it's kind of just more, each class has 3 subclasses. That's all it really is. Especially from all the, because I had 1 or 2 friends that played WoW at like a higher level, as in, I don't mean higher level in the same way, like when I'm talking about fighting games I say higher level, I just farther in the fucking game. So where's the, driving my wife's car. Where the fuck was I? So there's one skill tree that kind of goes down, and it goes into like backstab or sneak attack or whatever the equivalent is in the game, and then there's another one that does something else. I don't know. But in one of those skill trees, there is a particular ability or a particular feature, trait, quality. I don't know what they'd be called. So I'm just going to say feature. Skill? I mean, there's skill tree. Yeah, skill, whatever. So there's a skill that lets you gain backstab bonuses or whatever they are if you're initiating combat, and it lets you apply backstab to weapons that you can't normally trigger backstab, however it works. And I don't know the exact utility in WoW. Like, even then it seems kind of like, aren't you just going to use your backstab weapon anyway? Like, the only utility I could see in a game like that is if you can trigger backstab with a much more powerful weapon than normal and get a much larger percentage of damage on that first attack, and then you just juggle weapons and switch, I guess. In something like an MMO or something like that's more physical action oriented, like you have to physically press buttons. In something that's more physically oriented than a tabletop game, that probably feels like, it feels like you're doing something. It's like, okay, you get a bigger chunk of damage. You see like the enemy lose like 50% life instead of 30%. I don't know, whatever that is. And then you can juggle your weapons. I think you can switch weapons relatively easily in that game. The game is kind of set up to do it. And then you just fight normally and you kill it in a rotation or 2, whatever it is. But in a game like 5e, that really doesn't make any sense, because what this player proposed was like, oh, you can get sneak attack, like if you're stealthed or hidden, or you have some form of surprise against the target. If they're unaware you're going to attack them, then you can get sneak attack with non-finesse weapons as long as they are at most one-handed, or you can apply it to unarmed attack, which is fine, but there's a lot of caveats and rules interactions that make that really not useful. And we went over it in the chat, but I think it's an interesting point to discuss when designing stuff, because at the end of the day you have to figure out what type of choice is this going to cause a player to make? How is it going to feel to use it? Like, is it going to make you feel like you're clever? Is it going to make you feel like you're breaking the rules and you're allowed to do so? Because I find in a lot of design, that's what players gravitate towards without even really realizing it. At least that's how I'm going to choose to describe it. Like any game where you can cancel an attack into another, that's something you want to do because it feels really good. It's usually really efficient. Like any Castlevania game, you can swing your sword in the air, or some Castlevania games you can't. But post Symphony of the Night, swing your sword in the air, and if you land, you can cancel the animation entirely. So you can time it so your attack comes out just before you land, and then you're back to neutral and you can attack again. So you can really quick get attacks out, or you can return to neutral and move around much more effectively. Whereas otherwise, just swinging your sword on the ground is much more committal. You're locked into that recovery animation. So something like that is what players look for. And that's what feels really good to do. It makes you feel like you're beating the system, or you're more clever, or something like that. A lot of other designers might use the term skill expression. I am not a huge fan of that term. It always feels kind of goofy to me, but not going to get into that. So what a feature like what was proposed would essentially do is okay, you could use any one-armed weapon or unarmed or an unarmed attack to trigger sneak attack if you're stealthed or hidden or whatever else. Now, what that really means is you can get essentially a maximum of a D8, because any one-armed weapon, when using it one-handed, that was another caveat. It was using a one-handed weapon without the versatile property, which essentially just means you can't use longsword, battle axe, or a warhammer, because it wasn't that you can't use it in two hands, it was that you can't use it if it has the versatile property. So that's a little rules fuckery and language nonsense, but otherwise. So what that realistically means is, for the purposes of your first attack in combat, you can use a weapon that deals a D8 damage. Well, a rogue is usually going to gravitate towards a rapier anyway, which does a D8. So this isn't like any meaningful upgrade. So unless your rogue specifically likes to use knives, you're already making an unoptimal choice. So there's that. And then let's say you do want to use this feature. Okay, you hit them with what? Let's just ignore the versatile thing. So let's say you have a warhammer and you're going to trigger sneak with it on the first attack, and that's really funny. So you're doing it because it's funny. Okay, you get sneak attack, and you're at worst, if you're using a rapier as your normal weapon, you don't get a meaningful damage upgrade. The only thing you really get from this is a funnier sneak attack, because you bonk someone with the hammer instead of stabbing them. Then I guess you gotta sheath the warhammer, put it back in your backpack, and take out whatever weapon you use normally. Okay, well, there's some action economy there. Most likely what's going to happen is either you'll put it away that turn, and then, especially because you already used your object interaction on this turn to probably draw the Warhammer as part of the attack you make with it. This is why in a lot of my games, I pretty much run, you can draw a weapon and make an attack with it, and as part of the same action. Like, it doesn't cost anything to draw a weapon the majority of the time. Putting one away, you can do that as an object interaction, and then if you want to do it more than once, you'll need to use like a bonus action or something else. But that, like, it smooths things out a little bit, and then depending on the character, I might just let them freely switch weapons. Like, but that might be a higher level type thing. Anyway, so you can, at most, you've already drawn the weapon, and then you can use your object interaction to put it away. And then as a rogue, you don't get more attacks, unless you're multi-classed. And at which case, your sneak attack is less valuable anyway, because it's going to be a lower dice pool. But, you know. So then you spend a round with, like, no weapon. Then the next round, you draw your dagger or your rapier or whatever. And it effectively, it doesn't confer any real benefit. Now, there might be something with the unarmed attack, because maybe in certain situations, even though you can, like, draw a dagger as part of... Oh yeah, that was one more weapon property I wanted to add. Even though you can draw a dagger as part of your attack action, maybe there's some situations where you can maintain more of an advantage by just punching someone. So being able to trigger sneak attack off of that, there's maybe an argument for it, but it's also the type of thing that is not worth, like, a feat. This is a ribbon feature at best. But this is the type of, I don't want to say it's like a design dead end, but it's the type of thing you run into sometimes. Like, you get a cool idea, especially if it's inspired from something else in some other system. It's like, oh man, it'd be cool if you could do this. But then you start mapping it out and how it's going to work in your TTRPG of choice, and it's like, oh, it actually sucks. If it's going to work kind of the same way, it doesn't really do anything because of how different games are built. Like, it just is what it is. Like, for example, in 5e, there's no, theoretically, there's no benefit to doing, like, a launcher attack that launches somebody up in the air. Oh, I was like, why does it smell? I'm in front of a trash truck. The only real benefit to doing that, the way the mechanics work out, without building all sorts of extra stuff, is when you launch someone up in the air, they get launched, and then they fall back down, take a minor amount of falling damage, and are rendered prone. So it's really, all a launcher does is, it's a way to render a target prone, which is a cool ability. And then maybe there's some niche uses. You can launch somebody else up to catch, like, a balcony or something, but you could do that with, like, a shove attack. You can just grab someone and throw them. So it doesn't really do anything. Whereas the inspiration I'm drawing from is games like Devil May Cry or Ninja Gaiden, where you can launch someone up in the air, then jump up after them and do an air combo. So unless you're going to build that system out along with it, where you can launch a target and then, use a bonus action to jump, or use half your movement to jump, something like that, you can jump up after them, and then you can, if you have more attacks to do that round, you can perform them as an aerial attack, which has some kind of other benefit. Like, maybe you're at advantage, or maybe, like, it's just a way to generate advantage, or maybe it's a way to, you get some other benefits, like you can gain Like you can continually do more attacks if you keep passing a skill check to stay in the air or something. You know, I'm not designing that system out right now, but it's kind of the idea. If you're trying to just port something in directly, a lot of the time a mechanic is going to need more building out to make it actually useful in some way beyond just, wouldn't this be cool? And I've definitely run into that like a dozen times, where like I start thinking about, oh man, this is a cool mechanic, I want to steal it. Oh, if I just port it directly over, it doesn't mean anything. It literally does nothing. So, you know, and it's not even really a trap. It's just one of those, it's just something easy to fall into, because different games are different. Different mechanics and systems, they're all different. So, yeah, that's about all I got today, at least for this video. I think I got another topic I want to broach again, but I gotta switch cars and go to work. So yeah, that's all I got for this video.